Hello and welcome to this edition of EMS Now Up Close. I'm Eric Miskell, and today it's my pleasure to speak once again with Markus Hoffman. Markus is the Chief Sales Officer with WERAP Group. WERAP is a European-based EMS company, and I can say a few things about it, but I'll let Markus introduce it because he's the expert here. Markus, welcome. Thank you for coming on board. Why don't you begin by giving us kind of an overview of WERAP? Because I know there's three different divisions. Give us an overview of the business, please.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Eric, for having me today. So it's a pleasure to talk with you again. So the opportunity to talk about WERAP is a great thing for me because we are a company developing in the right direction, in my opinion. WERAP in total is an EMS company, as already mentioned. But beside PCBA, we are not just producing electronics by ourselves, but also cables and inductive goods, all together in the end, as well as box build. And all these three divisions are covered over our 5 sites in Europe, which are located in Switzerland, in Germany, in Slovakia, in Serbia, and Romania. And at that sites, we are really trying to have a good mix between low volume, high mix, and high mix, low volume approaches, mainly for healthcare, medtech business, for defense, and for military applications. I call it military applications because that is what it's all about in the end of the day. And of course, we're also doing industrial applications. So that's WERAP in a nutshell. We are almost 50 years on the market. But since 3, 4, 5 years, since a lot of things changed, we are really heading to grow and becoming a more stable and big player in the EMS field.
Yeah. And the headquarters is in Switzerland, correct?
True. That's close to Zurich in Bubicon.
Okay, good. And yeah, I wanted to talk to you about a few things. You're kind of an industry veteran in EMS in Europe. And so I always appreciate your insight. So let's kind of start. One of the issues that is always interesting to me is the M&A activity and what's happening over in Europe in this regard. So how do you view the current kind of M&A dynamics within the EMS industry there?
Yeah, it's really big, in my opinion, at the moment. So as we take a look at the latest news we got only last week with the BMK and with the Hansa, but also a lot of dozens of smaller ones, it's really something which is shaking the EMS world at the moment, at least in Europe, in my opinion. So as Dieter Weiss always said, we are more than 2,200 companies. A lot of them are quite small. A lot of them are quite huge. So not just because the market is a little bit unstable at the moment, but definitely also when it comes to investments, when it comes to further new technologies, I'm pretty sure that all these M&A activities, especially in the EMS field, will become more over the next couple of years, maybe also about the next decades. And we also see that at WERAP, by the way. So we are a mid-sized EMS company with headquarters in Switzerland, several sites in Europe, but also we are very close to M&A activities. We have taken a look at a lot of targets the last couple of months. And which I pre-announced today as well, is that we decided to buy one of those companies from the German-speaking area. But for the details, we have to wait until Productronica. This is when we officially announce the details. But the deal is already sealed, as I can say today. First to you, Eric.
Very good. You know, in TV, that's what they call a cliffhanger, right? That's
yeah.
You announce it and stay tuned. No, that's exciting because yeah, I think there are definitely opportunities here. But I wanted to ask on the M&A as well. When I was there earlier in the year, there was some rumors, well, when I toured Eastern Europe, rumors about companies from non-European companies moving into to do acquisitions too, possibly from the Asia side, some Indian companies, but Asian companies. Do you see activity still in that type of those type of deals?
Yes, definitely. So not so much with hard facts, but there is a lot of rumors ongoing on the market. And what I see by my own eyes is, as you know, I lived in Eastern Europe, in Hungary for a couple of years. We have our own site in Serbia. So what I see is that everywhere where, for example, Chinese car manufacturers settle down, there is a lot of, let's say, demand and rumors ongoing when it comes to the acquisition of local EMS companies there. So somehow the same what, let's say, Germany did 25 years ago. So the OEMs went into China and the German EMS companies were following them. The same is what I see right now, vice versa. So Chinese companies moving into Europe and Chinese manufacturers are following them. So not clear hard evidences and facts, but there is a lot of rumors, and for sure more and more will go on in this direction. And as we know, there is not millions of EMS companies in Eastern Europe. It's around about 400, I guess. A lot of them are owned by the very big guys, not so much independent local ones. So I think there will be something like a battle about these capacities in Eastern Europe in the upcoming years.
Yeah. And that I think you characterized it correctly. That's exactly was my impression earlier this year. There was a lot of rumor, there was a lot of talk about what might be happening, but I've been, eagerly watching to see actual news hit about it. So maybe that's still to come. So now you mentioned your footprint, and that intrigues me because I wanted to talk about kind of the expansion, kind of into other geographic areas, such as whether it be Eastern or Western Europe, right? I think Dito was saying there was a lot of Eastern Europe revenues went down because Western were pulling back some work. But how do you, what can you tell me about kind of what WERAP might be planning in this, or how you view that, and also what WERAP might be planning? So.
Yep. So basically, as we are a Swiss company, we are headquarter-wise not European Union-like. So we are out of the European Union. But when we're talking about, let's say, the European continent, this is where I see that we have already a very good footprint. So we have Switzerland as a headquarter. There is still a lot of local for local demands there. We have Germany, Slovakia, and Romania in the European Union. And we have Serbia as, let's say, a nearshore or friendshoring country for the European continent. Good thing is to know that there is a lot of free trade agreements, for example, between China and Serbia, which is also helping when it comes to, let's say, transfers back into Europe. Yes. But we all know that, of course, the world is not going to end on the European borders. So there is a big, very important part in North America and South America, but also in North Asia and in Southeast Asia. Yeah. Basically, we are an opportunistic company. So when we take a look at our history of the last couple of years, the takeover of the new owners, the implementation of the new management, the growth of new technologies, the acquisition of new sites, we definitely see that the Asian and also the North American market is something which sooner or later will touch us. At the moment, we are slightly more into the direction of Southeast Asia due to existing customers we have who might be willing or needed to move into Asia. But on the same moment, we also have a close look on North America and South America. We definitely are open for that. And I think every EMS who is capable to take that should think about the globalization in this regard, because my personal belief is this total market strategy, which we had in the past, that you have a good setup in Europe and you deliver in the world, for the EMS field, that's for a long time not valid anymore. I think we need to take a look into local for local solutions, like other big companies already do. And the same is what WERAP also sees on the horizon. So to answer your question, Europe, I think we are fine. North America and Asia, we are very opportunistic. And if there is a demand, we definitely will follow up with our customers.
And as you indicated too, I mean, the driving issue behind that is really the geopolitics and what we're facing. And as that is shifting here as of this year, right, there's some uncertainty in the markets and relationships that are adjusting, I guess would be a good word. So.
Yeah, definitely. And in the end of the day, we are here to doing the business. And that's why we should also consider this. That's why I'm always a fan of integrating something like a geopolitical agenda, even in a mid-sized companies. If you cannot do it by yourself, then get support from the big associations. But we should not close our eyes on what is ongoing worldwide. And I always like to say geopolitics is not for politicians anymore. So this is also something we need to take care about.
No. Excellent point. Excellent point. As you were speaking there about, when talking about Southeast Asia, you were talking about your customers and they may have a demand there. And I wanted to talk about customer relationships a bit and dig into that because one thing I'm hearing a lot and seeing when I talk to EMS is their desire or a strategy to really engage earlier, right? Get into kind of get earlier in the product life cycle so that you can sell more services, but also to ensure continuity throughout the entire product life cycle. How do you view the importance of this, such initiatives for the business?
Uh, in my opinion, Eric, there is always more views on the medal. So in certain points, in certain markets, maybe it's still enough that you are the producer, you're offering a good price setup, you're offering a good sourcing department, and then getting a total cost, which is fine for the customer. But what I see, especially in the markets we want to move in, as I mentioned, it's the healthcare market, it's the military applications market, it's the industry. Decisions often are done very early. And once you're in prototyping, for example, you need to really mess up or really need to have a bad setup to get kicked out again. So what do we need to do to really leverage from these opportunities? You need to step in earlier. And earlier, 20 years ago, meant that you are in prototyping. Then 10 years ago, it meant that you should support the customer somehow in industrializations, design for manufacturing approaches. But today, and this is really something, again, the big guys already do for a decade or longer, but we as a mid-sized EMS company are also digging in deeper, it's R&D know-how. And with R&D know-how, I not necessarily talk about ODM solutions or OEM solutions, but at least about the capability to take in the technical specifications from your customer and make a product out of that. So this is something to really fulfill the full turnkey solution. And this is becoming more and more important, in my opinion. We in WERAP, to be honest, as of today, we don't offer that. So what we do is we taking care about project management, we can do the DFM analysis, we can do industrialization, we can do prototyping. But when it comes into product design support, this is something we are now moving forward the next steps to getting, let's say, a partner on board in the Western Balkans, in Southeast Europe, who already is very mature when it comes to the development of products in agriculture and also in military. And we will team up with them. Later this year, we will announce how we want to do that. But this will help us and will support us to do product design support, mainly in the IoT field, but also when it comes really to hardware and software development. In a nutshell, the times of pure producing based on bombs is long time over. Everybody knows that that's not news. But maybe what is the news is that even maybe industrialization and pure DFM support might not be enough anymore in the future.
Yeah, that's very interesting insight because people have talked for the last many years that the IP or core competence, whatever you want, of EMS has really become supply chain management, right? But as you're indicating, once everybody achieves that, how do you differentiate, right? And that's really how do you engage earlier? And I think as the industry has matured and more OEMs increase their confidence in being able to outsource to companies like WERAP and others, their willingness to engage and allow for these types of partnerships should certainly increase.
Definitely. And when you take a look at the markets itself, so our customers or the customers of typically EMS companies, although the European industry is cooling down a bit and unemployment rates go up, but unemployment rate don't go up for R&D engineers. So this is still something like a bottleneck. So these companies, on the one end, our customers don't get enough R&D capacity anymore. Plus, the request for change from the end market is becoming higher. So it's not that you develop a product and it will stay on the market for 10 years. The cycles are getting shorter, therefore more efforts at our customer base. So I think it's a no-brainer to say that they need to find alternative solutions in their ecosystem because they simply cannot do everything by themselves anymore. Not talking about startups, but real mature companies who say, for example, this portion of R&D, I stop taking care about myself. It's not interfering my IP too much, but I will outsource that. And this is what we see on the market, maybe even more see on the market when now business is going back up. Because at the moment, they are hanging around a bit through the markets. But at the moment when it goes up again, for sure, this will be a major request to EMS companies.
Yeah, no, very interesting. Listen, and I wanted to ask, I mean, I'm aware of the fact that I'm speaking to a chief sales officer here, so I have to ask a sales related question, right? Uh, can
I
you,
did my best.
yeah, can you share any kind of success stories from WeWrap about gaining new business in this kind of challenging environment?
Yeah. As you say, it's really a challenging environment. Last year, when we talked about electronica, I was quite optimistic. I'm still optimistic, but 2025 was rough, I think, for a lot of EMS companies. But still, so what I would like to share with you is two major achievements we did in this year, because we are very proud on that. One is military related and the other one is healthcare related. I think it's a good balance. It's a good
Yeah,
mix. It's like yin and yang, You
yeah.
do something in military, you do something in healthcare. Um, there is even more we achieved, but this is the two ones I can name and mention. So one of them is, for example, for ammunition from Rheinmetall. There is a 35 millimeter ahead munition, as it's called. It
Mm,
has 152 tungsten points in it, and then it explodes and it directs into the object it should receive, like a
mhm,
drone or something.
yeah,
And what we do there is, in the end of the day, the detonator, or you can also call it ignitor, which is
mhm,
needed that in the proper moment, the munition is exploding and these tungsten units are going all over the place. You can imagine that if you do something like that, this is not nitty gritty. You need to really achieve the highest quality standards, and you need to also
yeah,
be a reliable company.
yeah.
We are not working, we are not doing the final integration of the munition, but we're doing the detonator. And if that is not working, the munition is not working. So I think we are very proud that we do that and that Rheinmetall has chosen us. The
Hmm.
volume, as you can imagine, is going up dramatically. And this is something which is supporting our growth quite a lot at the moment, especially in
Yeah.
Switzerland, because this one is really done in Switzerland, because
Mhm.
quality and reliability is extremely important if you do this kind of products.
Yep.
And the second one from the healthcare department is something we won for our site in Serbia. That's a tool for patient monitoring for a pacemaker. So if you have a pacemaker nowadays, you always get a side box to it where you
Hmm.
regularly can check if all the functions are fine. So this is a home device. So you're
Hmm.
using that at home. And this is what we, let's say, moved from the original manufacturer to us. This year we already did the pre-series and we are already in full swing now with mass production. And this is really going up into the high volume approach again. So this
Yeah.
is two examples. And overall, I have to say, industrial applications are quite stable. So we are not seeing a decrease on that,
Yeah.
still stable.
Yeah.
But with healthcare and with military applications, we will see a growth this year. And due to that, again, same as 2024, even in 2025, WERAP will see an overall growth. So I
Hmm.
think that's good news, especially in the EMS field.
No, excellent. And it just strikes me as I hear you sharing those that in both of the incident, both defense and healthcare, you mentioned kind of the quality certifications necessary, right? I mean, to be able to do those types of manufacturing, that's just not everyone can do that, right? You need specialty, and you also you in EMS, you remember this years ago, it's, oh, I can do that, I can do that. And then, most of them couldn't because they were
Yeah,
just hoping, right? This is really nowadays the industry has progressed to the point as where you're at, where you can go in incredibly engage customers like Rheinmetall and the healthcare company to consider your services and consider you as a partner. And that's a testament to, I think, where the industry has come.
that's I fully agree on that because in the end of the day, it's not just a question what kind of a track record your company has, because in the past it was sometimes enough if they I produce for them and they said,
Yeah.
okay, that might be enough, I trust you. But today, as EMS capacities are there, so there is an overcapacity in Europe, if you are talking honest to each other. You really need to find your way through that. And this is not, in my opinion, maybe when I started EMS 20 years ago, it was sometimes fake it until make it, till you make it.
Yeah.
It worked. I did it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But today, with all the specifications you have and all the regulations you have, this is something you cannot do anymore because the risk is much too high for the customer and also for yourself. So get your processes together, get your certifications together, and go ahead. And this is also something which is great to announce in this moment as well, as we acquire this company in the German-speaking area, as I mentioned before. WERAP will also step in more in satellite technology and also in avionics technology. And from January next year onwards, we also will have the EN 9100 certification, which not so much EMS in Europe have. I think it's 12%. In the US, it's 60-70%. In Europe, only 12-13%, as Dieter mentioned, something like that. And we will also be a part of that beginning of next year.
You just made an excellent point too, which is we were talking about M&A before, right? That's how EMS increase their competence, right? You can buy it in, as you evidently are doing. You're bringing that's going to open up a whole new opportunities for you, which as a chief sales officer must be exciting.
Definitely, yeah. I'm very happy about that. And this is, as I mentioned it last year at Electronica, me and the team, we are really happy to make that move into WERAP because we getting a playing field with our owners who really help us to move forward. We are creating things, we are growing, we can look in different directions. If it makes sense, we have almost no limitations. And this, of course, makes me happy when I get up in the morning and even long days, long weeks, a lot of traveling. But, you know, hey, it's fun if you achieve something. Yeah.
No, precisely right. Listen, you've mentioned or referred back to the Electronica a few times, and I'm cognizant of the fact that we're about to hit Productronica. So how do you view the importance of those trade shows and industry events in general for the industry and for yourself?
You know, I turned 40 this year, so I count myself to, let's say, not the veterans, but the experienced guys in the market. And if I listen to the young guys, you know, the newcomers in their 20s, they very often had the impression that all this kind of trade shows and all this kind of conferences is not needed because you can do it online, you have figures and facts, that's it. No, it's definitely not, because relation and network is key in not just in the EMS field, but I think in life in general. That's why even during COVID, everybody said maybe these trade shows are not becoming important anymore. Even at that time, I thought that's not true. And nowadays you see it. And as I originally come from the PCBA field, and now with WERAP also we have a very strong footprint in cable manufacturing and in inductive goods. Productronica, for example, even becomes more important. Because, you know, the Electronica, this is really the show where we are getting in with our classical EMS capabilities. But Productronica now is really something where we set the focus on inductive goods and on cabling. We already shared a lot of invitations with our customers, and we believe that Productronica is extremely important for us to, let's say, sharpen our brand. Not everybody knows us yet because there is too much EMS companies, and we are only going this full pedal approach since 3 years. And that's why I think Productronica and also the other conferences and shows are extremely important. And for us as human beings, I always say people buy from people. So you never buy from a company, but you buy from people. And if you are not there, you miss something, in my opinion.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You know, I've heard the saying before that all things being equal in business, you want to be in business with somebody that you know and trust, right? And how do you develop that? That's hard to do remotely without, you know, the meeting and actually standing in front of each other and having a discussion. So I think your point is very, very well taken there.
Definitely. And if you take a look, not telling you too much about my sales funnel, because that's, of course, classified, but if you take a look at my, let's say, history in EMS and also at the history of my friends or even business partners we had, most of that is not coming through cold acquisition. So maybe the very big guys, they getting their business through the email address. Okay,
Yeah.
so people turn to them because they are known everywhere.
Yeah.
They worked for that. So it's not that I don't blame them for that, because they worked hard for that and they grow. But we in the mid-sized company area, we really need to go out day by day and move to the people, talk with the people, because otherwise you don't have a chance to grow. You don't get the business through the email or through, let's say, the MS Teams. You
Yeah.
need to be with the people. And if I would need to make a statistics out of the last couple of years, I would say 85% of the business we did or won was through network, or somebody recognized you, or somebody worked with
Mhm.
you before and gave an advice about you,
Mhm.
about associations. Maybe 15% through cold calling, but the rest is really network and associations.
Yeah. And you make the good point. These aren't transactional relationships, right? It takes
Yeah.
what, 18 to 24 months for an EMS deal general on average to close.
Yeah.
So it's there's a lot of engagement through that. There's a lot of vetting that happens, and that personal side is a critical component of it. So
Yeah, definitely. Just one example, if you're interested in the
yes.
military field. So I started to really take care about military in the beginning of 2023, so almost 2 years right now. And it really took me a year to really get recognized and accepted. And, especially in the military field, because there is a lot of, especially in Europe, a lot of previous military guys, they're getting
Mhm.
functions in the industry.
Yeah.
And of course, you need to really have a personal relationship with them. You need to know about what you're talking. And otherwise, there is maybe the best price you can offer, but you never get the chance to quote, because you have missing the network and
Yeah.
the in-between solutions between
Yeah.
you and the guys.
Yeah. And those military guys tend to be pretty no nonsense guys. They don't do a lot of fluff, right? So you got to,
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, it depends on if you know them very well. It's
yeah.
different, but the first let's say discussions you have with them,
Yeah.
you should be prepared for that. That's true.
Yeah. No, good, good. Well, Marcus, thank you for the time today. I look forward to your cliffhanging announcement here, which I believe will be announced, and you said in advance of Productronica this year. And please send us a press release. We'll certainly share it with the world and the industry. Look forward to seeing what that happens, and look forward to seeing you at Productronica next month.
I'm really looking forward to that. Eric, thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
sir.